Hello, welcome to the Buy Blue Shopper, and we have Laura Wentz, Pennsylvania State Cluw, and we have a special guest tonight, Christy Brangillian, to talk about working women and childcare. So we'll start with Laura Wentz, Pennsylvania State Cluw president.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. The series is made possible by our sponsors. So I just want to give a shout out to PA State Clu's sponsors for the series events. We thank our sponsors, Clearfield, Elk, Cameron, and Jefferson Central Labor Council, Indiana Armstrong Central Labor Council, Erie Crawford Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO. The first two were also AFL-CIO. Allegheny Fayetteville Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO. Philadelphia Council, AFL-CIO. SEIU 668, Chapter 8. Philadelphia Joint Board, Workers United, Kathy Black, Pam Tronso, myself, Laura Wentz. Best Insurance Pro LLC, Jeffrey O. Jones, Vice President of Sales, and Buy Blue Shopper. And I just want to, and then also I just want to show, there are some logos that we received from some of our sponsors. So these are their logos to keep an eye out for. And then I'm going to stop sharing a moment and come back on. Okay, I just wanted to thank everyone for supporting our series. Tonight we're talking about childcare. But before we get into childcare, I just wanted to give you a little bit about Cluw. We are a coalition of labor union women. We are a co-ed coalition fighting for women's rights, union rights, worker rights, human rights, Mother Earth's rights throughout the country and the world. We have chapters all over Pennsylvania and the United States. And we work to empower women to help the unorganized be organized. It's essential to come together and fight for the rights of all workers everywhere, to protect our communities. And with the election not quite going the way we had hoped, we really need to come together and support one another. And childcare is one of those areas that, without the Affordable Care Act, there's a lot of things that we wouldn't have that we currently have in place, and is in danger of being taken away as well. So I'd like to thank Christy for being here, and please take it away.
Thank you so very much. Give me a second and I will share my screen. See if we can get this to work. It was working earlier. Can everyone see my screen at this time?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so very much. Again, my name is Christy Brangillian. I'm the Executive Director for Community Connections for Children. And we work with 13 counties across Pennsylvania, helping low-income working families pay for childcare, helping to improve the services of childcare, and increasing the quality and capacity. We have a home visiting program and a whole bunch of programs that we oversee. One of them is our new initiative, ECHO, that I'll get into in just a moment. But we used to be called Child Care Consultants. You might have known us from that name, but we're now Community Connections for Children. We were founded back in 1987, primarily with resource and referral, helping people find childcare. How do I know where is a good place to put my child? And how do I pay for childcare? And again, these are the various programs that we administer. CACFP is a food program. Childcare Works is the program that helps low-income families pay for childcare. We're United Way agency, the Early Learning Resource Center, and our home visiting program. We oversee the Keystone Stars program, which again is focused on improving quality and capacity. and we work with people who are caring for children in their home, and we help individuals who are looking to become DHS certified in-home caregivers to go through that process. One of the things that is true in the counties we serve is we don't have any center-based programs that are providing second and third shift care or weekend care. And that is a huge need. We know that we have many employers that are operating second and third shift jobs, and families, particularly women, need access to childcare during those hours. And it's really important that they have a safe place to have their child. Some of them, of course, may have a friend or family member that's watching their child, but if not, a home-based program is really their only option and a great resource for them. One of the things that we have done recently, and we'll talk about this, the childcare workforce is primarily a female workforce. 90+% of the women, and a couple of slides I'll get into their rate of pay, but it's very low. And so one of the things that we have worked with the county of York and the county commissioners and private individuals is to provide a stipend for the teachers to support their wages. And we've given out over $1 million over the past couple of years to help support the wages, because of course we know childcare is expensive, but it doesn't cover the full cost of care. And while families can't pay any more, the staff are really subsidizing the low tuition rates. So I want to get to that next. So one of the things we're really working at is to increase the number of slots that we have available to support. One of our focus areas is York County, and we're looking to increase capacity to serve 1,600 more children. One of the things that happened as a result of COVID and has not really come back is that most of the child care programs that exist are operating only at 85% of their typical capacity. And while during the height of COVID, that was due to COVID and people working from home or leaving the workforce, it's now completely due to the staffing crisis. And the childcare industry has not recovered, and the low wages that the staff make, we are not seeing people go back to the field. And, if you can make more money at a fast food place, a convenience store, pretty much anywhere else, you have to be able to support your family. So it's understandable that there's a crisis in staffing that we are seeing. And of course, unlike some other industries in childcare, if you don't have the teachers, you can't serve the children. There's strict ratios. You need that for quality. Maybe at McDonald's, if somebody calls out, somebody can do burgers and fries. Maybe it's not ideal, but it's certainly possible. But in a childcare program, one person can only watch 4 infants. And you can't say, oh, well, we can't find another staff person, but, there's 4 more babies on the waiting list. We'll just have one person watch 8 children. That's not possible. And we have about 1,400 educators, but that's way less than what we need. And here is their current salary. Average salary, a teacher with a degree working in childcare, $12.20 an hour, which equates to, just shy of $26,000 a year. And this is somebody with a degree. And obviously they can't make a living on that. But we also know, and I realize there's a lot of text on this slide, I'll walk you through it. We also know that most families cannot afford to pay the full cost of care. They're already paying a significant amount of their family income for childcare. On average, infant care is $12,000. So again, using that model, one person can watch 4 infants. That's $48,000 a year coming in to support that teacher's salary, benefits, and all the operating expenses for that classroom. People like to compare the cost of infant care to college, and they'll ask, why is it so expensive? Why does it cost almost as much as it costs for college? Currently, there's college tuition here in Pennsylvania at a public school is about $14,000 a year. But I've never met a college professor that only teaches 4 students. So we'll use a low number and say on average they teach 45 students a year. Again, that's a lowball number. That would still get $630,000 supporting that one teacher as compared to $48,000. And that's before you add in the state funding. That's before you add in financial aid to help those families pay for the college tuition. Before you add in endowments and alumni giving, and at Penn State, all the revenue from the football games and all the other sports, nobody pays to come and watch the children on the playground and childcare, right? And all the merchandising revenue and all of that. So if you look at, in this very bottom line on the PowerPoint, in 2021, Penn State, across all their campuses, reported $7.7 billion in revenue. And they also reported 74,000 students. So that's not that $14,000 a year. That's $104,054 a year per student going into that college. And that's part of why this model and this comparison is so false. And unfortunately, only about 76% of all children have access to high quality learning, and that's a real problem. So one of our new initiatives called ECHO, which right now is being funded through private dollars, is really looking at creating opportunities for all children and families, increasing the number of teachers in the field and supporting a living wage, and then mobilizing and engaging and promoting our community to help support these efforts. So we have done that through economics club breakfast forums, presenting at the women's business events, conversations like we're having tonight. And again, I really appreciate this opportunity to help raise awareness about why this is so important. We are also hitting the media as much as we possibly can, press and television, to really get this out. And at the very end, there'll be a website if you're interested in seeing any of this information. I can flip through some of this. We just a couple weeks ago had people in from the Federal Department of Education learning about our initiatives and projects. The picture of people in the hard hats at the bottom is we have a brand new facility that is opening that we're really excited about. We're giving grants to programs to support increased quality, capacity, and teacher retention and living wages. And I think, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about this evening is this resolution that you all have related to what percent of a person's income should they be paying for childcare, and really looking at the recommendation that families are paying no more than 7% of their income for childcare. Typically right now, almost 90% of families are spending 10% or more on childcare, and over 2/3 of families are spending more than 20% on childcare. For many families, it's more than their mortgage or their rent payment. Many women and families are faced with the decision of, is it more financially beneficial to my family if I remain in the workforce and we're a two-income family? Or is most of that second salary going to go to paying for childcare, and it doesn't make financial sense for that second family member to work outside of the home because it's not really going to contribute to the overall income and support of that family. And again, of course, this often hits, the women much harder than the men. I don't mean to be stereotypic, but it's just true. We saw that through COVID. We're still seeing that the women are the one who, more often than not, if the decision is made for someone to stay home, they're the person in that household that is staying home, providing care for the children. Not only is that impacting the money coming into that household in the immediate time period, but it's also impacting the potential future earnings of the person who kind of stepped off the track of working outside the home to stay home with their children and then trying to get back on to their career. There's oftentimes, you kind of have to start over again a little bit, if you will. So we, as an agency, really support the resolution to create the policy that no more than 7% of a family's income would go to the cost of care. That is something that had been coming out of the federal government. There is some support from Governor Shapiro and his administration and the staff at Octal, but of course it's where is the money going to come from? And as was stated at the very beginning of this meeting, with the election going the way the election did, I am not overly confident, that additional funds are going to be coming into the system. So I think it is critically important that we continue to all work together to advocate for women and families and children. This workforce and what we're doing, it's not just the current workforce that childcare is impacting. It's the workforce 18 years from now. And how are we setting them up to be successful by getting them off on the best possible start through high quality early childhood education? One of the ways we're doing that is through a teacher aide apprenticeship program. We are working with individuals who are interested in getting into the childcare field and career, even at that very low age, that this is a passion of theirs. And so we are helping them get the introductory credential called a CDA, paying a stipend for them, a stipend for a mentor teacher, and then helping provide salary reimbursement to that center who is employing the teacher aide and the mentor teacher to really help increase the number of teachers. So again, we can serve more children in quality programs. And I think I pretty much talked about this before. I don't want to take too much time. We do have grants that we're just releasing. Again, the Bloom grant is helping individuals start up a child care program in their home with those startup costs to get licensed. And then the Innovation grant is helping existing child care programs increase capacity and quality. And we're giving individuals between $25,000 and $50,000 to do that. In our first round, we had approximately 400 additional children and 60 additional teachers. So it's been really successful, and it's only in its first year. And then the startup, we've had 13 applicants requesting $230,000. 100% of the applicants are women, 90% persons of color, and 10% veterans who are starting these in-home childcare. Again, most of them serving regular hours, and then those non-traditional second, third shift and weekend care. And this has been really successful. So just can see some of the children that we are supporting and we're able to serve. And here is our website for more information about our programs and services. Again, my name is Christy Rangillian. I'm the Executive Director for Community Connections for Children. Katie Caples, our Director of ECHO, was going to be joining me this evening. Unfortunately, she got ill, but her contact information is on the screen as well. And we welcome any questions or conversations. We would love to partner with you and continue to support each other and the women and families and children we serve to improve outcomes for children and our local economy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. Curious, the grants that you provide, are they only for those in New York, or is it for anyone throughout the state of Pennsylvania?
The ones I was just talking about at this point are in York, but we are working with other counties to raise funds for those because those are all private dollars at this point.
Okay.
I will also say that today, just today, the state released a grant opportunity for the 3 regions that we serve, 13 counties, Dauphin, Cumberland, Perry, Lebanon, York, Adams, Lancaster, Center, Snyder, Union, Juniata, Mifflin, Northumberland. I think I got them all. Forgive me, it's been a long day. But the 13 counties we serve, and it's the same basic idea of providing grants to help people get into the childcare field, and then for existing programs to increase their quality, capacity, and their support for teachers. So those were released today. If anyone is interested in learning more about them, I can send them the applications process. Those applications will be due at the end of January. We're very excited to be part of this pilot project. So at this point, there's only 7 of the Early Learning Resource Center regions that have been selected, 3 of which we work to administer. And we're very excited about that opportunity.
That's great. That's wonderful. We have 2 chapters in those areas. We have the White Rose Cluw and Central PA Cluw. And then we have Philly Cluw, and then a Southwestern PA Cluw. And I'm wondering if some of those counties you mentioned might actually make it out to the Southwestern PA, or if you're all Central PA.
Yeah, we're mostly central. The farthest west we would go is Adams and Center County, so pretty much central.
Okay.
But the White Rose and the Central PA, absolutely. And anyone who are in those areas, again, please do reach out to us. We'll be glad to support you in your efforts and connect you to the programs that potentially could be applying. One of the things that I think, would be helpful, we don't seek out, in-kind donations. We ourselves aren't caring for children, but one of the things that I think would be a wonderful opportunity for your chapters to work with Community Connections for Children is around advocacy issues. Things like working with your elected officials or writing a letter to the editor in your local newspaper, asking for a meeting with an elected official or a key business leader in your community to talk about why this is so important. We know that there's a $6.8 billion with a B dollar impact on Pennsylvania employers because their workers can't find childcare. So they either can't come to work because they have to stay at home because there's a problem with their childcare, their center closed, the teachers aren't there, something has happened, or they're not as productive because they're worried about the care that their child's receiving because they're not in a quality program. So there's already an economic impact on employers. And our position is that it would be so much better if we could be proactive, and instead of having billions of dollars go on the back end, when you're trying to recruit and retain their workers because their workers can't find childcare, what if we invested in childcare, increase capacity, increase that hourly rate for teachers so that there was more capacity, it was a higher quality, so that people could find childcare, pay for childcare, and then feel confident and able to go to work knowing they had a quality place for their child. And it's better to pay for it, in my opinion, on the front end than on the back end.
Right. And I know that there are local unions that have been organizing home care workers, SEIU, I believe Unite Here. I think maybe ASME, healthcare provider side of the equation. Do you do any work with any of the organizing unions to try it? Because, I mean, quite frankly, the unions do a lot of great work to bring up that pay, right? To balance to have pay equality, to make sure there's safe working conditions, that no one's being overly worked. They also help with the ratio of number of children to teacher, right? It's like for PASNAP, number of patients per nurse. That ratio, if that ratio is too many patients or children to one adult, then one caregiver, one nurse, then it can become dangerous for all, right?
Exactly.
And that's unsafe working conditions. And that's one of the things that unions are all about, is making sure that all the workers have safe working conditions, as well as fair pay, right? Unions really help to balance out the inequality in pay, where employers can't discriminate between men and women because you're hiring a union worker. That it's about the job, not the person filling the job.
Right. Absolutely. We work with the unions that help support the family child care providers, again, those individuals that are working out of their home providing care. And our agency works closely with them, provides information to individuals so that they can decide, do they want to join the union? What would be the benefits? Outlining all those things you just talked about, particularly because if you're providing care in your home as a family provider, you are more likely than not you are the entire staff of that program, right? So it's very isolated, and having that union, that support, and all of those benefits that you just talked about are critically important. For the centers, most of the centers are smaller, either for-profit or nonprofit, many of them housed in larger organizations such as YMCAs, YWCAs, faith-based programs, church-based programs. So most of the centers are not union, but we still provide a lot of information to them regarding the benefits, as you just mentioned, about adequate pay, retention, recruitment, how you provide benefits, can you collectively work together to pool your staff so that you can purchase things like healthcare or other things through that shared service model. So kind of the same model of of taking a smaller shop and collectively pulling people
Right.
together, so that you have more capacity. So that's definitely things that we talk about. The ratios are set by the state. So those are pretty set. If an employer is saying, oh, back to that example I gave earlier about one teacher to 4 infants. If a program was saying, oh, somebody didn't show up today, you have to watch more infants, that's a reportable offense to the state. Now, whether or not that employee feels empowered to do that, that's another conversation.
Right.
But those are set. It's not like one employer can say, oh, here we think you can watch 8, down the street, they think you can watch 4. It is a across the board standard that the state sets.
Well, it's good that the state has set that standard. And I mean, I think if people felt that that wasn't sufficient, then, or was too many, then we would just rally together and get it changed.
Right.
So, and I do recall, sorry, I have a cat doing something really bad right now. Um, but that's not unusual in my house. I'm a cat rescuer unofficially, but yes. Sorry. So, one of the things that when I remember meeting with SEIU when they started organizing the home care workers, that was one of the biggest things, is that they were spread out because they were all in these different locations, and they didn't have. It wasn't like they were going to a factory where they were all in one space. They were all spread out. My union, I'm a member of IATSE, Local 8, International Alliance of Stage Theatrical Employees. We have a hiring hall. We're based on seniority, and our union has over 200 contracts with venues and event spaces throughout Philadelphia, central to southern New Jersey, and like Trenton and Camden, um, and into the suburbs here in southeastern PA, and we're all over the place. So it might, depending on the job, might be 1 or 2 people. It might be 100 people. It's really relative to the job and the contract. And so, yes, I find that for those who are working on their own, they feel disconnected. And so they feel like, why would I join a union if I'm the only one here? But the reality is the union gives you that um, collective bargaining, right? If you're one person or one fish trying to get a higher pay, they don't care so much. They're going to pay you what they feel like paying you because you're only one, right? But if you have a union behind you, and that union consists of 500 people, 1,000 people, 2,000, 5,000 people, then our collective unit is has a far more higher impact on affecting that amount of money that they're going to pay you, because it's been negotiated, and then the union can help stand up for you. And if someone tried to make you take care of 6 or 8 infants, it's not about you filing those charges, it's about the union filing a grievance against the employer and to the state for that, forcing more than the quota on any one teacher. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize when they're an individual in it. I'm the only one here. One of the really good things about the unions is that collective aspect, right? That impact is intense. So if you disrespect one worker, you're disrespecting the entire union.
Right. Right, absolutely. I think that that's really important. And that's one of the things that we also try and do, is to bring the family providers and the center-based providers together. A lot of professional development, a lot of on-site mentoring, training, technical assistance, coaching, to help them improve what they're doing, help them think about their business practices. Oftentimes people start watching children in their home. Maybe they decided to leave the workforce and they think, oh, I can make some more money watching my neighbor's kids, my friends' kids. And they kind of fall into it, if you will, the process, and then they go through and become a licensed family provider. But they don't really think of themselves as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner. But in fact, they are. And so, how do you? One of our free trainings and programs that we offer is, how do you think about those business practices? How do you set your fees? What happens if a family isn't paying you? How do you set your policies and procedures? How do you get insurance for your business? All of that. And again, some of them will elect to join the unions. We make sure they have that information, because to your point, that's another opportunity for them to have that connection, that information, and to be in a collective, as you were saying, of support, so that they can say, no, I know that the going rate for care in my community is, X dollars a day, or X, Y dollars a week. And that's, this is my rate, and the service I'm providing, these are not babysitters. 90% of your brain is developed before you ever get to kindergarten. The most important time with our children is these early years. And research, says that over and over in all kinds of ways. And so, yes, that's part of what we try and do too, is help people see the importance of this. This is a profession. This is, I often will say in a somewhat sarcastic manner, this is not a woman, and again, it's almost always a woman, but it's not a woman with some Play-Doh and a box of crayons, right? Like, this is not babysitting. This is not daycare. This is early childhood education. And it's so impactful for the children, and it's enabling their family to work and support their family, and their economic well-being.
Right.
It's a multi-generational program, early
That's
childhood.
great. Yeah, because I know, Christy, I had wrote you a pretty lengthy email a while back. That my best friend from kindergarten all the way up to high school, she got custody of her grandkids,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in that same boat now.
Right.
I can't work a lot because, she is single too. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is hard. It is hard for her to work and then just work around the school.
Mm-hmm.
And it is hard to get a babysitter or whatever on days all. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
her employment has suffered. So, yes,
Right.
it can happen in a couple different age groups for women that
Exactly.
they're in this predicament thing. And yeah, and it's
Right.
hard. It's
It's
hard to get
very
a job. And I know from working shift work, it, yeah. I mean, back in the 80s, you didn't even hear of second and third shift babysitting,
mm-hmm.
you
Right.
know.
Very
So
true.
I'm
Right.
glad, it's at least being talked about, and work
Mm-hmm.
doing.
Right. And one of the things, that we're trying to do, we partner with the economic alliances and the Chamber of Commerce, because as they're having conversations with people who want to open new businesses, it's really important that they're proactively talking about childcare. Our offices are down in York County, and for people familiar with that area, going up Interstate 83 towards Harrisburg and Dauphin County, all those new warehouses, FedEx and all the other warehouses.
Amazon's up there.
Amazon, exactly.
I know that's 3 shifts.
Right. And they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And, when people are trying to determine, back to the days, and we are still a resource and referral agency, which is a free service for people at any economic level, are calling us saying, I need to find childcare. And of course, okay, well, where do you live? Where do you work? Because most people either want their childcare near where they live or they want it near where they work, right? Well, if you put a big, huge warehouse, distribution center, factory, whatever, out in the middle of nowhere, where people, first off, can't get there unless they have private transportation, so that's one barrier for a workforce to try and get to some of these places because there's no public transportation. But two, if there's no close by childcare, then what happens if their child gets sick and they're 30 minutes down the road and their baby's sick? So that's one of the other things that we try and talk about with businesses is to think proactively. Where are your workers coming from? Where would they put their children? Some of these places talk about, oh, well, we're going to provide transportation and we're going to pick up people, let's say in, downtown Lancaster, and we're going to bus them out to wherever their, new business is. Well, that's a great model until their child gets sick and they have to figure out how they're getting back, right? And their shift doesn't end for hours and they need to get back because the child care program has called saying, you need to come and pick up your child. They have a fever, they're sick to their stomach, not to be disrespectful, but, we all, if you've had a child, you've been there, right? The school calls. And I think, your other point, there are so many families of grandparents raising grandchildren for a wide variety of issues. And yes, the economic impact on them is difficult, how that impacts their ability to retire. Are they having to go back to work? To your point, childcare isn't just 0 to 5, but it's what happens for the school age population. Most families don't work from 8 a.m., to 3:30 or 4, right? Especially if you're counting about, the drive time to get to your job. So do you need before school care, after school care? Maybe you need both. What happens on school breaks? What happens over the summer? So it's really important for those elementary and young middle school age children too that, really aren't, ready to be left home alone, right? Where are they going and how are we paying for that? What
I
do
know I know another lady who has a daughter who has and she has 2 children. And and I'm not saying this disrespectful either, but the daycare where her daughter and son go in the summer, they're taking every Friday off. Now, I'm not mad at them because the staff needs a break, and I get that, and they need some time to be able to go away and come back and have you know, but now that's looking for childcare on that day because the parent still works their job. And it yeah.
yeah, it's hard. There's no easy answers. And again, the model, and I don't mean to pick on the fast food industry, but you can't just have another person now watch more children than is humanly possible to watch or safe to watch, back to that earlier conversation. And what is the impact on the care? I had a conversation several months ago with a vice president of a bank whose childcare program was not serving 2-year-olds like every Wednesday. They didn't have enough staff, so they were like moving the teachers around. And one day a week, they were closing each classroom. So it was like, the infants didn't come on Monday, and the toddlers didn't come on Tuesday, and the 3-year-olds on Wednesday. And this president of a bank had obviously the financial wherewithal to pay. It wasn't a tuition cost issue, it was the staffing crisis issue. And that person was blowing through their PTO because they were taking, every Wednesday or whatever day it was, for their particular age child off because their program didn't have enough teachers. Well, why didn't they have enough teachers? Because they were paying them $12 an hour. And why are they paying them $12 an hour? Because most families can't afford, back to the beginning part of this conversation, you can't afford 20% or more of your take-home pay for your childcare. We need more public money into childcare to help everybody, not just our lowest income families, but to help everybody, like, with public K-12, you know.
Right, and that actually plays into from the movie 9 to 5, where at that work location, the three women who kind of took over for a couple of months implemented childcare for the workers on site so that the workers could work and be there and do their jobs and not have to worry about their children. And if a child got sick, they were right there, and they can snag them and go from there, right? And it was a very progressive model at the time that the movie 9 to 5 came out. But I do think that somewhere along the line, that concept got lost in the shuffle in the corporate world. And I think that maybe it's time to bring it back.
Absolutely. And we have been working with businesses around that. I think really the best model is a business partnering with an existing experts in early childhood education, somebody who's doing the work. But yes, having a program on site is a wonderful model. There's some really good examples of that. I used to live and work in Chicago, and there was a business that had a program right, downstairs. The other really good model is a business paying for slots and contracting, or having it as one of the benefit plans for their staff. We're going to give you X amount of money per week to help offset your childcare costs, so that again the family still has the choice about where they're taking their child, but that can get some financial support. That's a fantastic model too, right? So there's all different ways to do it, to bring in those public and private dollars to help support the employees.
Well, what you suggested that Pennsylvania Cluw do, we can we can do letters to the editor, and we can advocate to on specific issues. That is what we're about. So
Absolutely. And if you can send us some examples of issues that, if there are anything in particular that you're running into problems with, if there's any legislation in Pennsylvania or locally that, you at any point in time you all need help with, we can definitely help out with that.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, we'd be glad to partner with you and send some examples.
Great. Wonderful.
yes, because this is definitely a woman's issue.
Well, it's a family issue. I mean, across the board, because quite frankly, if children are sick or can't, for whatever reason, childcare is not available, parents can't work, and in many situations, many situations it's women, but there are a lot of situations where it's single men or male couples who, are raising children. and where, you know, they can't go to work either, if they don't have care for their children.
Right.
So,
Or the grandparents, like we talked about
the
earlier, or
grandparents,
whoever else is raising the children and caring for the
yep,
children.
aunts, uncles,
Right.
absolutely, you know. So yeah, it's a universal issue. And yes, it's predominantly female workers in this situation and families, but we should definitely look at it as a universal issue, and important for all of our workers. And it affects all the workers that have children in the equation. Wonderful.
Yep, I agree. So
Great.
this sounds like this will be exciting.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can make a difference.
Yeah, I think we can. And I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening and reach out to your membership. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them our contact information. We just really look forward for ways we can work together to make a difference.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And yes, thank you. And so yeah, so we'll create a snippet. We'll repost this event with your information, your contact information, and any other important information. And like if you want to include how to apply for any of those grants that you talked about, we'll definitely share that as well. Um, and what counties that applies to, so that people from the right counties apply for them.
Sure, I'd be glad to send that out to you.
Great, wonderful. And yeah, thank you so much. And I believe the resolution that you referred to was a resolution passed at the last Cluw convention, right, Kay?
Yes.
Right. So, so at the last Cluw convention, there was a resolution on improving child care, and that's the resolution you had cited. So I just wanted to tie that.
Christy has a copy of it.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you. And Kay, did you have any union products, union made products you want to talk about, since we are heading towards the Christmas time?
Yes.
And Kwanzaa and Passover and so many holidays in December.
Oh, okay. I seen a union, but okay. Let me look at something else here.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will just share our sponsors again, just to wrap that part up. Pardon me. Share screen. So I just wanted to thank our sponsors again for helping us to be able to put on today's event. Our sponsors are Clearfield, Elk, Cameron, and Jefferson Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO, Indiana Armstrong Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO, Erie Crawford Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO, Allegheny Fayette Central Labor Council of the AFL-CIO, Philadelphia Council AFL-CIO, SEIU 668 Chapter 8, Philadelphia Joint Board Workers United, Kathy Black, Pam Tronso, myself, Laura Wentz, Best Insurance Pro LLC, Jeffrey O. Jones, Vice President of Sales, and Buy Blue Shopper, who has made it possible for us to do this event on YouTube today. And then here are the logos that we have received from some of our sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. If you want to reach out to Cluw, you can email us at cluw@gmail.com. I'm Laura Wentz, president of PA State Cluw, and then vice president of PA State Cluw is Shabria Thomas. And our Facebook page is PA State Cluw, so please check us out. I have shared this video from Kay's Facebook page on to PA State Cluw, and I was actually sharing it in a whole variety of groups while you were speaking. I did not mean to be disrespectful, but I wanted to get it out there, so I shared it like 25 times into different groups, and so far we've had 52 views. So it's getting out there, and we'll continue to push it out. This is really important information. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing in protecting the workers and the families that need childcare, as well as connecting the workers, childcare workers themselves, to unions and educating them on the importance of unions. So we really appreciate and the grants that you're providing and the funding you're providing to help make sure that people get a fair wage and are able to, care for as many children as possible within a safe working conditions and so forth. So thank you for all that.
Well, thank you very much. Again, really appreciate the opportunity this evening, and look forward to ways we can continue to partner and work together. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And as part of the Buy Blue Shopper and Coalition of Labor Union Women, we like to support each other in union-made products. So for a union-made Christmas dinner, I'm going to start with the turkey, which would be Boar's Head, Butterball, Foster Farms, Thurman, Hoffman's, Honest John's, and Rogers Poultry. I don't know if they are all at York County grocery stores, but they are all union. Okay, so our stuffing, which is no surprise here, Stroman's Bakery. Nice. Then we have our ham, Boar's Head, Appleton Farms, Tyson, Hormel Honey Roasted, Farmer John, Kunstler Brand, and Cook's. Salad, Andy Boy Lettuce, Bird's Eye Vegetables, and Del Fresh, and Fresh Express Salad. So then we go into a few more side dishes, which would be Del Monte canned vegetables, Dole, Kraft mac and cheese, although I never had it for Christmas, but okay. Ocean Spray, cranberry sauce, and Ore-Ida. So they are, which I'll probably be going over more in on my channel at a later date, but they are the union-made food for the holiday.
That's awesome. I hadn't thought about that, and it's not just for the holiday. That applies for any and all meals that you get. Like if you have the opportunity to purchase from any of those companies, you're supporting union workers and fair wages. So that's and safe working conditions. So that's excellent. And if you can definitely share that list with us, and I'll definitely put that out there as well.
Absolutely.
That was a great list. So wonderful.
Well, this I think was a great conversation for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making this possible, Kay.
Oh, I love it.
Christy. Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right, then. We'll continue to work with childcare issues in the future. And hopefully we can be back on, Laura and me, next week. So, all right, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Good night.
Good night.
No, thank you.